Good morning, everyone. I'm Lydia, and today I will be talking to you about resilience. So everyone experiences stress at some point in their lives. Negative life experiences like going through a breakup, an illness diagnosis, or the death of a loved one are inevitable. And sometimes these have been associated with poor mental health outcomes, leading us to believe that we're weak or debilitated. But this is a myth. We humans are actually quite resilient. So resiliency can be defined as the ability to overcome a stressful or negative life event. On my rugby team, we define resiliency as the ability to get up and keep pushing through even when the opposition is doing everything that they can to bring you down. But I have good news for you. You don't have to be a rugby player to be resilient. So researchers have found that this is an ordinary rather than extraordinary process. And it's seen as a normal coping mechanism for us when we're going through these negative life situations. And it can be demonstrated throughout the process of a negative life event. So it's there in the beginning when we're trying to predict how much that negative life event might affect our emotions or how scary it will be. It's there during when we feel as if we're pulling downwards and we're being pulled downwards and have lost all control. And it's there afterwards, once we've made it through that negative life experience and are preparing for the stress of the next one. So let's take a look at before. Our ability to predict how we will feel in the future is called affective forecasting, and it turns out we're pretty bad at it. So researchers have found this by comparing people's predicted feelings for their change in happiness before they win or lose money in a gamble, comparing that to their actual feelings or their actual change in happiness when they've won or lost money. And they found that people predicted they would be really happy when they won money or really sad when they lost, but this isn't actually what happens. There's only a slight change in happiness, and this demonstrates that we're pretty poor at predicting how we'll feel after something like this occurs. And this is because we underestimate our psychological coping mechanisms. So when we're thinking about our negative emotions in the future, we often overestimate the intensity and duration that we'll feel them for. But our psychological coping mechanisms work to decrease both of these, turning them into something that we can handle. For example, let's say you fail a midterm. Your psychological coping mechanisms will kick in to help you rationalize that. And you might instead say, well, maybe I failed that midterm because I had 4 other midterms in the same week. So comforted with that thought, you can move on. So from this, we know that we overestimate our negative emotions and underestimate our psychological coping mechanisms. So we're more resilient than we know. Now, during, we may feel down or depressed for a while, and that's okay. We might disengage from other activities not related to our issue, but this is okay because we're allowing more time and resources to focus on problem solving our own issue. And this is called analytical rumination. So I see this as an example of resilience because we're problem solving so we can get back to functioning the way that we normally do. Now for after, it turns out that once we've overcome these situations, we're better prepared to handle stress of the next situation. Researchers have found that people with a moderate number of negative life experiences are better at handling stress than those with a low level or a high level of negative life experiences. And they found this out through 2 experiments. The first involved people to hold their hands in ice cold water for as long as they could tolerate. And they found that people in the middle of the spectrum tolerated pain for longer than people on the outer edges, which is kind of cool. The next experiment, researchers had people complete IQ tests. And the people with the moderate number of negative life experiences were better at controlling their stress and showing less stress symptoms than people on the outer edges. So this shows that we're better at handling our stress after we've gone through a few negative life experiences. So the next time you're dealing with stress like this, just remember that you are resilient. Before that breakup, when you're predicting how much those negative emotions are going to affect you, just know that you're probably overestimating your negative emotions and underestimating your psychological coping mechanisms. During the heartache, when you feel really down and really sad, just know that you thinking about your problem is allowing you more time and resources to solve that. And once you come to a solution, you'll be able to move on and get back to normal functioning. And afterwards, now know that you've got a negative life experience under your belt and you're better prepared to handle stress again in the future. So regardless of whatever your next pitfall may be, just know that you, like the rugby player fighting against the opposition, have the ability to bounce back and remain resilient every step of the way. Thank you.